How's everybody doing? I'm excited to be here. Thank you. Well, when I say excited to be here, I'm used to being in person. So I'm excited to be with you all. I'm at my house. I'm not so excited to be in my house, but I think this is actually interesting that it would start this way because it's an object lesson for what I want to speak about today, which is really about how do you shift in difficult times? You know, Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And what I want to talk about is finding yourself in the dark place. The video was really just going to share a bit about coming back from adversity, how you can fight your way back. I know Brian had asked me, somebody on my team, and they talked to me about, sending over a bio. And I was like, yeah, let's just not do that because, the bios always talk about the best points in life. The bios talk about those moments and times where everything is going great. In my bio, it mentions how I went to Morehouse College and graduated as valedictorian, and then Harvard Law School and wrote books and yada, yada, yada. But we don't ever talk about in the bio losing everything, like in my case. We don't talk about in the bio the frustration, the hurt, the failures, the disappointments, the low experiences, the pit places. And so I don't want to talk about today how you handle it on the mountaintop. Nobody has to be told about that. You know how to make it when everything's going well, when it's successful, when the business is going great, when college is going the way you want it, when everything is going exactly the way you had planned. I want to talk about how do you deal with dark places? How do you find yourself in the midst of adversity? How do you not allow what's out there to pollute what's on the inside and come back from whatever it is, no matter what you have fallen from, and come back as your best self? Now, I want to share a story, and then I want to share 3 points, and then I want to open it up for questions and comments. The story that I'll share is that there was a period of time where I was literally at my lowest. I talk about it a lot in my most recent book called Come Back Swinging. And the book is here. And I just talk about how I lost everything. This was after Harvard. This was after Morehouse. This was after so-called being a celebrated public speaker, whatever that means. And how I found myself in a place both literally and figuratively I never thought I'd be at. And I had one friend in particular, the way that he would lift me up, he would write me and he'd say, I want you to call me. And I'd call him and he would take the phone and put it next to the computer and just play inspirational messages. And many times I didn't know who the person was. Sometimes it was, an icon, some cultural figure, a minister, a politician, whatever. But the theme was always the same. It was getting up from adversity. It was fighting your way back. There's power in your pain. There's purpose in your pain. There's destiny in what you're going through. And one particular day, I remember this was like my lowest point. He said, I know you're going through a lot. I want you to reach out to me. And I call him and he takes the phone and he sits it next to the computer as he'd always done. This time, the voice on the other end of the receiver begins to talk about adversity, the power of fire, the power of going through. And the speaker began to talk about how the fire is not to destroy the gold, but it's to refine the gold. It's to take the gold and purify it, to remove things from it that would destroy it, that would destroy the gloss, to remove things from it that was keeping it from being its best self. And the speaker began to talk about a diamond under pressure and all of the things that we hear all the times when we're going through adversity. But this hit me so hard. And 2 minutes in, I hung up the phone and I ran in the bathroom and I cried harder than I've ever cried in my life. I'm not talking about one of those cries people say, oh, he was weeping. No. I was crying. You can't even catch it. I couldn't even catch my breath. It was one of those type cries. And even though the tears, they came out of my eyes, they were really pouring from my soul. It was a deep, dark lonely, frustrating, hurtful place. It was poor decisions that brought me there. It was issues that I hadn't dealt with from childhood. It was all these confluence of events that led me to this place. And I'm crying so hard. And immediately, I didn't have words to why I cried so hard. But it hit me, which is why I hung up that phone and I couldn't even say anything to him. I didn't cry because the message was so powerful. I mean, in fact, some of what the speaker was saying was kind of cliche. You know, the diamond in the under the pressure and the gold in the fire. We've all heard it before. It wasn't even because of where I was, because that wasn't necessarily a new event either. But I cried so hard because it was not immediately. It was not 1 minute in of hearing this man, but it was 2 minutes in of hearing this speaker that I realized that person on the other end of the phone that I was listening to, that person was me. Not figuratively, not like, oh, I related to, it was me. It was a speech I made on YouTube 5 years before. Somebody recorded it, I didn't even know. Somebody else uploaded it. And now I was listening to the sound of my own voice and didn't even know it. That's why I cried. Because life brought me to the place where I didn't even know what I sounded like anymore. And that's what I want to talk about today. When you come to the place, inevitably, where you realize and recognize, I don't even know how I got here, where I am, and what I sound like. That's life. That sometimes it's bad choices, but sometimes it's not even bad choices. Sometimes it don't take a catastrophic, cataclysmic event to happen. It don't take COVID or a pandemic. Sometimes it's just life that happens. Life will drag you through the ringer. Life, disappointments, having dreams, having goals, having visions, having things that you just knew. If you were like me, when I was a teenager, I knew how my life was going to turn out. I knew step by step, and I had advice for everybody on everything. And when I had the opportunity to put it into place, I realized life wasn't nearly as easy as I thought it was. Life will do that. And so the question becomes, how do you find yourself in the dark place? How do you find yourself and discover who you are in places of uncertainty, in places of frustration, in places of grief, in places of sadness, in places of loneliness, in places of mourning? We, in some ways, are facing that as a world. Who would have said or believed that at the beginning of this year would come out the way it has? Between the national unrest, the police brutality, the riots, the national racial reckoning that we're facing, COVID, the pandemic, quarantine, now they said the dust is coming from Sahara and is about to cover the country. I don't think we can take another thing. How do you find yourself when it looks like everything else is slipping away? And I want to share 3 things with you. I hope everybody has a pad and pen, because I want to leave you with some practical advice. I don't just want to get you excited. I think that's part of the problem. We always like people, we get all excited, and then we go back to the life that we had. So I don't want to speak from a place of just motivation. I want to speak from a place of transformation. So I'm going to give you 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself, and 3 practical points as to how do you find yourself in the dark place? Because the dark place will happen. Maybe it's already happened in your life. But how do I, in this place, find me? The first question I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to write it down, is, who am I? Like, who am I? We spend so much of our lives being what we thought we were supposed to be. I had a mentor that once told me, Darrell, God ain't gonna bless who you pretend to be. I almost fell off my couch when he said that. Because, we do stuff so long, we don't even know when we're real and when we're pretending. And it doesn't come from a malicious place. Take Instagram. You never upload that first picture. You don't upload that first picture. You took 10, you took 12, you wanted to make sure the lighting was right. You even probably put it through some filters, and then you posted that. But that's what we do in life. We're so concerned with image and how it looks and how people will receive us and what is it going to feel like and look like, and we're looking to receive all this praise that we come to these places where we're more interested in being popular than being powerful. I wondered how far Dr. King would have gotten if he was interested in being popular. He's popular now that he was murdered and now they put his monument up, but at the time he wasn't popular when he was talking about let's make real the promise of America. I mean, I don't know what Jesus would have preached in Israel if it was a poll that he was taking. So the question becomes, who am I? So under that question, I want you to ask yourself, who was I before the world told me who I couldn't be? Who was I before the world told me what I couldn't be? Who was I before, family members said, well, I don't think you could do that. I don't think that's possible. Before you started learning statistics, one of the best things that humans have is intellect, but it's one of the worst things. Because intellect, if we're not careful, overrides our instinct. You never meet a watermelon seed that's trying to figure out what it wants to be. It knows. It was created, designed, and destined to be this. It's only us. You never meet an animal that's trying to figure out. I mean, I've had cats, I've had dogs. It's like, it's instinct. But what happens is we intellectualize ourselves out of who we're supposed to be. And so we figure, because people said it and family said it and the school said it and, data confirmed it, so to speak, that now we've lost who we are. And a lot of people talk about becoming, but I want to talk about unbecoming. I want to talk about shedding. See, that's one of the good things about the dark place. Shedding all of that stuff, that weight, that extraness. When people come to me for career coaching, the first question that I ask them, I tell them to write down on a sheet of paper, what did you want to be when you were 10 years old? People say, why you say 10? Because that's when you still believe you could impact the world. Now, I know y'all in college, so that's a good thing. For most of you, you're still at that place where you believe you can impact the world. That's phenomenal. Never lose that. But what happens is people through life, they forget that. And they start believing not who they were predestined and pre-programmed to be, but they start believing all of the stuff around them. And so it really becomes hard to know, who am I versus who did I think I had to be? I talk about that a lot in Come Back Swinging. That you don't have, it's not a malicious place that comes out of wanting to please people. We're taught from yay high how to please people. The problem becomes when now our entire lives, our degrees, the things that we go into for school, the jobs we take, the things we talk about, what we even post is all centered around likes and other people rather than legacy and impact. So who am I? I want you to write down, like I said, those questions and begin to take yourself back. I mean, we don't have time, but I take people through this exercise of, when you were younger, what were some of the things you believed? And what were some of the things that you gave up on along the way? Because you just assumed it couldn't happen. And I would suggest to you that some of the greatest things in the world are done by people who are crazy enough to believe that they can. Who am I? Who are you? One thing I can say for certain, you were made in the image and likeness of God himself. You're not just an intellectual being. You are connected to something greater and more powerful. You were destined, fearfully and wonderfully made. You were created. You weren't just, so it's got to be this question of, and this is the second question I ask many of my clients that come to me. I say, look, and write this down. Why was I born now? This goes to who am I? Why was I born in the time that I was born in the place I was born in? You could have been born 100 years ago. You could have been born in 1329 on the side of the road in Tibet. Why now? That leads me to my next question, which is, why am I here? Why am I here? Now we're starting to talk about purpose. Why am I here? Why am I on earth? I was doing a workshop with some educators. And I was telling them, the problem is I think we ask the wrong questions. Talking about starting in college. Well, it starts way before college, but in college, even professors, we ask, well, like, what do you want to be? First of all, that's a what question, not a why. What do you want to be? What's your major going to be? How are you going to get there? Let's start with why. Simon Sinek wrote a powerful book called Start with Why. Why? Why is the beginning of the discovery? Before we can even get to how, before we can even get to the what, let's get to why. I recognize at an early age that I was on earth to motivate, empower, and encourage people. When you want to start talking about purpose, you ask yourself, what is it in me that just won't die? That's what we're talking about here. Now, I don't think I have 100% awareness of purpose. I'm always finding out more about myself as time goes on. But I believe that when I understood my purpose, at least a piece of it, it governed the way I went through school. It governed the way that even the jobs that I took. Really what I'm talking about is, what is the theme of your life? When I talk to people, I can tell they don't have a theme because I look at their resume. You worked in 10 different jobs in 15 different industries. You don't have any theme. It's cute at 20. It's a disaster at 40. It's a disaster. You have no thing. What's the theme? What is the purpose? What is the thread? When we're talking about purpose, we're talking about, please write this down, we're talking about the place where your passion, where your power, and where your profession align. That's what we're talking about. Because I want to be very practical when I speak about purpose. Because I know we say it, and it's like, well, what does that mean? The place where your passion, the place where your purpose, the place where your profession align. That's where the place of fulfillment is. That's the place of deep satisfaction. When I'm hitting on that place, when you're in your element, can't nobody touch you. I don't believe that there's a such thing as lazy people. I believe there's a such thing as uninspired people. We're always motivated to do what we want to do. So when people say, well, I'm late, you're not lazy. You just haven't found your element. You haven't found where you fit yet. You haven't found that place where that power and your passion and your profession align. Really, when we're talking about profession, we're talking about calling. When they say in school, what's your vocation? That comes from the Latin root word from which we get vocal. It's really what they're talking about calling. Let's just be real clear. They're talking about something that's deeper from within. That's calling you. It's called you from the time you were born. That's why it won't die within you. That's why other people in your family don't get it. That's why even when you try to let it go, it's nagging you in the middle of the night because it's calling you to purpose. And the question is, will you answer the call to go higher? What grieves you? If I really had time, I would really just talk about how what grieves you is a indicator of your purpose. Stop getting upset because other people aren't mad at what you're mad at. You're mad at it perhaps because you've been called to solve it. Stop complaining about it and tweeting about it, and let's talk about solutions. You've been destined to solve a problem. What grieves you? What makes you mad? What keeps you up at night? What's like your third hand? When you're doing it, the time just melts away. You do it for free. You do it for fun. You just do it because you love to do it. Now we're talking about something deeper than what I do for a job. Because my job is what I do because it's what they gave me. My work is what I was put on earth to do. There's a difference. I can live without a job, but I have work to do. And so what is my purpose? Practical point here. How do you begin to find your purpose? Get around other people who are working in theirs. That's when we start talking about mentorship. That's when we start talking about being in peer groups where people are elevating you higher. I can't be around everybody that's talking about what's on Love and Hip Hop next week. Don't get me wrong. I want to know what's on Love and Hip Hop too, but that can't be my whole conversation. I got to have some people that's going to push me higher. I got to have some people that can oversee my life. They can see over because they're working in their gifting and they are showing me how to unlock what's in me. See, you have things that are in you that's locked and it's going to take somebody else to help unlock it. I know we don't tend to think of it that way because we tend to think everything we need, we can do from within. I think everything we need, perhaps we might have within, but it's going to take somebody else to help unlock it. You were born with the ability to speak, but somebody had to teach you the language. Somebody had to teach you the nuance. Somebody had to teach you. You were born with the ability to think, but every theory that you learned and every strategy that you put together, somewhere, somehow, it was downloaded into you. And so that same way, what took my life to the next level is I began to get around people who are working in their calling. They say, don't go that way, go this way. Don't move in that facet, move this way. There's certain things I can tell you I would have avoided in life if I just had been around more people that were working in their purpose. But the problem is we like to seek for people that are similar to us and that's going to tell us what we want to hear, rather than seeking for people that's going to check our blind spots. And that leads me to my third and last point, which is, of course, starting with the question. Where am I going? Where am I going? You ask most people where they're going, they don't give you a clear answer. They really don't. They say these things that are real, like, general, but it's never a clear answer. I do a whole workshop where I walk people through the difference between vision, goals, and strategies. You'd be surprised how many people think a goal and strategy is like the same thing. Well, they're like interchangeable. No, they're not. But even so, a lot of times we don't have goals. It's not that we're not well-intentioned and we don't mean well, but we don't have goals. Goals they're specific, they're measurable. That means they're quantifiable, they're action-oriented. They're time measurable, they're in real time. A lot of times we say things that are goals, but they're really dreams. We say things like, oh, I want to build a business. That's a powerful thing, that's a dream. But where's the business going to be? Is it going to be an LLC? Is it going to be an INC? What's the name of it going to be? What are you going to do as far as branding? Now, I'm not saying you have to have the answers to all those questions from the beginning, but because we don't think through those things, we have a lot of ideas that are in our mind, but they never rise to the point of goal setting. Action point. Write down on a sheet of paper, not in your mind, on a sheet of paper, 3 things you're committed to doing as goals within 90 days. I don't do a whole lot of when I work with people 3 and 4 year goals. Because when we talk about 3 and 4 years down the line, we get real fake and we start talking about a lot of stuff. One guy told me, he said, I'm gonna be a millionaire in 3 years. And I'm always the one to inspire people. I'm never gonna say you can't be, but I'm thinking, I said to him, but bro, you don't even have a bank account right now. He's like, oh yeah, I know I don't, but so let's start now. Let's start with what we can do. Let's not talk about 3 years from now. Let's talk about in 90 days. Let's get a financial plan together. Let's put together a perspective for the business. Let's go ahead and walk down to the bank and see if I can open an account. So what I think is important is, and there's a proverb that talks about this, write the vision and make it plain. You got to begin to write down where you want to go. 1973, the class graduating out of Harvard was asked how many people have goals. Everybody raised their hand. Then they asked how many people had their goals written. 10% of the class raised their hand. 1993, they kept studying these students. 1993, 20-year anniversary, they found that the 10% that had their hands raised, that said they wrote their goals down, made more than the other 90% combined. Write down your goals. And you want to know something? Write them down every single day. Because now it's getting serious. Where am I going? You know, the same way that we're intentional about when we shop, and if you like me, especially in New York, if I go into the sneaker store, I know exactly what I want. You ain't about to talk me into buying no $500 phone posits. No, I know what I want. Direct me to this. the same way that we're directive about what we wear and we're directive about the phones we have. Some of you gotta have an iPhone and you wouldn't even think about getting an Android. Why are we not that directive about life? We say things like, well, you know, if it's meant to be, it'll be. For real? Like things are just gonna fall into place. I don't know. I think sometimes things fall into place, but a lot of times you gotta put them into place. The man said, I don't know if it's a true story, but it's a story of a guy, he sees another person riding on horseback very fast going by him, and he yells to the man, hey, hey. And the man looks back and says, what? And he says, where are you going? And the man says, I don't know. Ask the horse. That's us. Just on life. No real plan. Yes, we may have visions, not a real plan. Kind of like, you know, well, you know, when I graduate, it'll just come together. I don't know about that. Put together a plan. This is the time. Put together a strategy plan. Put together an action plan so you know exactly how it's going to work. That doesn't mean that it will. Things almost never go according to plan. But the fact that you have one, you can pivot easier. The question you should ask yourself is, if right now, the person that had all of the resources that you needed were to walk in the room and tap you on the shoulder and say, tell me what you need to get where you need to go, could you answer it? I'm not talking about vaguely. Could you answer it clearly? And for many of us, the answer is no, because we really haven't thought through. We really haven't thought through. So we might say something like, oh, I need some money. No. What do you need? And that starts with where am I going? So as I wrap up, you know, the one thing that I want to impress upon you is that the most important thing, I believe, to any success that I've been able to have is the ability to be resilient. And I don't even think that's something I have to talk too strongly about here, because for some of you, you've already displayed that just where you are. For some of you, can I just see by show of hands, how many of you are first generation college? Let me switch the view right quick. Okay. So we got several people here, first generation college. Some of you have already broken, whether it's college or not, you've already broken generational strongholds. If you are going to get what's meant for you, you got to have the ability to be resilient. I can't tell you how many times I've been knocked down and I'm like, okay, I will cry. I'll have the pity party. I'll quit. I'll give up. I know people say don't quit. I'll quit so many things so many times, but I quit for the night. That's the difference with me. Then I wake up in the morning and now I'm ticked off again. Now I'm ticked off. Like, no, you're not going to take that from me. This was a dream that was put in me since the time I was a kid. I refuse to give up on me. It's not about what somebody else had. This is something there is something that you have on the inside of you. I need you to hear me on this, that only you can do. Only you can do. There are, 7 billion people in the world? They've done studies and said something like 96 billion people have come and gone on this earth. Of 96 billion people, not one has the same fingerprint. Think about that. Not one, not even identical twins. You are uniquely created for such a time and a reason as this. So when you give up, imagine all the people behind you. Imagine if Dr. King gave up. Imagine if Marcus Garvey gave up. Imagine if Barack Obama said, they talking about me because my ear's a little big and I got a funny name and this is going to be hard. You have something in you that's going to unlock the destiny for an entire community. This is your moment, and I want you to see that and understand that. And so even in the dark places, as I really wrap up here, this is where you get your development. Now, I know I wanted to show an object lesson. Y'all, before, cameras were on everybody's phones, all right? This is what we used, okay? It was the camera. And the way it used to work is you had to take the film out from the back and you took it to the Target or the Walmart or the Rite Aid and they would develop it, and then they would give you, you took them the film, they developed the negatives, and they brought back to you the finished product. Now the technician takes the film and puts it in the dark place because the development can't happen in the light. We live in an Instagram, Facebook ready, Snapchat world where everybody wants to be noticed immediately. But I've come to remind somebody, you've been protected. That's why you aren't known the way you want to be known right now. Because the negatives have to be developed in the dark. See, if you were exposed the way you wanted to be, it would have exposed everything, including the negatives. And so the dark place is the place where the development begins to happen. And the technician is going through a process of development because the technician knows that this is what's necessary to bring about the finished product. Everybody sees the picture, but they don't like to talk about the process. They love it when it's framed on the wall, but they don't want to talk about it took the dark room. And so in the darkness that didn't happen overnight and doesn't happen in a couple hours, but happens through the process of time, what was in the thing is developed from a seed form into manifestation because of the dark place. And I want you to know that when you're in the dark place, when you're in the loneliness, when you're in the obscurity, I'm not saying it's going to feel good. I'm not saying you won't cry. I'm not saying that people won't leave you. I'm not saying that it's not going to hurt. What I am saying is the technician knows some things that you don't know because you're not a film expert. Let's just call it what it is. And so the technician is going to allow pain so that way the process can have its perfect course. Because in the end, when they see the picture, when they see the business, when they see you flourish, when they see you come back swinging, then they'll know it was done purposefully. And it was the dark place, not that broke you, but it was the dark place that made you who you are. Thanks for listening. I'm Darrell. And look, please, I would love to hear questions for, I guess we have a couple minutes for questions.
Darrell, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Wow.